All right, functions students, this is going to be our intro to Trig. We are going to go over some different things, and we're going to kind of go through this a little bit slowly with definitions and maybe a couple of examples, and then I'll have more later on. So we are going to go ahead and move on to the next thing. Let's see if I can get this. Here we go. All right, so setting up your triangle for Trig. So one of the things is that we're always going to have right here, whoops, why isn't it, there we go. So we've got our right angle, okay? So then when we are labeling the angles, so this angle right here, we're going to call that angle A, capital A. And let's say this angle right here, we're going to call that capital B, and this angle here, we'll call it capital C. So when we were talking about that and putting the labels, you always want to use a capital letter. So now this notation is actually important because it's going to help us distinguish between the difference between the angle or the side length, depending on what we're dealing with. So when we were talking about the sides, we're always going to label them with lowercase letters. So I like to, if I'm going to I like to keep things that kind of go together, but they don't have to be the same letters. But if I'm going to say this is angle A, then I'm going to say that the side length A is going to be right here. And I'm saying that because it's the opposite side to that angle. It's almost like this is a flashlight and this is opening up and shining the light on this side. So that's why I choose to do that. Again, you could use a different letter. Y is another letter that could be used for that one, and you'll see that a lot. And then right here, I'm going to go ahead, because B is shining down on this one, I'm going to put lowercase b for this side length. And then the angle C, which is the right angle, I'm going to go ahead and put lowercase c. Again, another letter that you may see a lot for this one would be X. And then another one that you might see for this one could be any letter. We could do, I don't know, I think R is used in the examples coming forward. So like, they could be any letter. They don't have to necessarily correlate with the angled names, but I like to sometimes. It just doesn't matter. It just needs to be lowercase. What matters is that the angle names are capital, and also that'll help with reading. So when you're reading it, that will help you. The hypotenuse is always going to be the side length that is across from that right angle. So it's always going to be right here, across from there. May not always be there. The orientation of the triangle may be different. So that is something that you want to keep in mind. Sometimes we're not always given what it is, but that's what we want to do. All right, so go ahead and get, actually, you know what? We're going to go through these side by side. So we are going to talk about them this way. So I would like you to go ahead and get this picture in your notes. And then the way that I want you to write this is I want you to put in your notes, so we're going to have 6 of them. I want you to write it like this. Sine of A is equal to y over r, which is equal to the opposite over hypotenuse. You don't have to shorten it. If you want to write the whole word, that's fine. What's important is that you write it like this. So side by side, which is equal to hypotenuse over opposite. So I want you to write sine and then cosecant right here. So, oops, too far. So go ahead and hit pause and do that. This is sine of A, and this is cosecant of A. That's how you read this part right here. So go ahead and get that in your notes. Hit pause when you need to. We're going to do the same thing for these two. So this is cosine of A, and this is secant of A. And I want you to write all of this, and I do want you to write cosine first and then secant right next to it. This picture is the same. So this picture stays the same. Again, I want you to take note that I have angle A, capital C, capital B, and lowercase x, y, and r. So that's why I kind of put those examples, but they could have been any letters. But when we are looking at when we're putting the triangle in standard position, again, standard position is the same thing for angles. We're going to have that initial side right here. We're going to have our terminal side, our terminal side right here. And then we're going to draw in this perpendicular line, that y. We are going to be finding different angles and measurements of angles using the properties of right triangles. So that's kind of where we're going. So when we're talking about a triangle in standard position, it's always in the first quadrant, right here. The x is positive, the y's are positive, and it's in quadrant 1. Quadrant 1. That's a Q. The other thing is, one of the things that I like to draw is, so when we're talking about our triangles in like standard position, if I were to draw all of them, so if I do that one, let's say this one, so that the right angle is on the outside and the origin is that first angle right here. This looks like a bow tie, so they look like bow tie triangles. So when you're being asked to draw in standard position, think that you're going to need part of your bow tie. So that's the way that I think about it. If you have any questions about that, please go ahead and come to class and ask. You can ask me or Miss Wadley. Again, I want you to write these trig functions in the same way. So this is tangent of, oops, why does it keep doing that? Of A, and this is cotangent of A. And I would like you to write those side by side. So when you're done, I'm going to go ahead and hit pause and get that in your notes. When you're done, it should, oh, so this one isn't the way I thought it would. Yeah, it is. So sine with cosecant, cosine with secant, tangent with cotangent. And these 6 trigonomic functions, this one is the reciprocal of this one, and this one is the reciprocal of this one. They're reciprocals of each other. So they go together. They're reciprocals. Reciprocals. So I typically like to look at them side by side. That's why I had you write them that way. So it would look like, you'll see the 6 trig functions, which would be sine, cosecant, cosine, secant, tangent, cotangent. These all go together. And when we think about them, and we're trying to find the reciprocals, and when we think about what goes with what, we think sine goes with cosecant, because you always have to have a co when you're thinking about your reciprocals. Cosine will go with secant, and tangent goes with cotangent. So I always think about it this way. I know tangent and cotangent always go together because they sound so similar. They're so easy to put together. Those ones are the easy ones. Then I'm going to go to the harder one. Cosine needs one that doesn't have a co in it, and the only one that's left that doesn't have a co in it is secant, and then I just kind of work my way through it. So that's one strategy that you can do. So make sure you get this in your notes. So here is our first example. Go ahead and get this triangle in your notes, because we're going to use the same triangle, and we're going to just find the sine, the cosine, and the tangent of for angles A and B. We're going to start with A, and then we'll do B. And we're just going to find those 3 first. So when we find those first 3, we are going to do the sine, which is opposite over hypotenuse. And the reason why I know, so if this is your angle A, then the opposite side is the one that, I think of A as like holding a flashlight and it's shining its light on 7, on this side 7. So then I'm going to put 7 on the top. The hypotenuse is always the side that is across, or where the right angle is shining its light, like if it were a flashlight right here. So then it has to be 25. Cosine is going to be the adjacent side, so the only one that's left is 24. So really what I like to do is, since I'm looking at angle A, I'm going to put opposite. We said that this was the hypotenuse, and so the only one that's left right here is the adjacent. So now that I've labeled everything, finding the sine, the cosine, and tangent is that much easier. So then cosine is the adjacent over the hypotenuse, so then that has to be 24 over 25. And then tangent is just going to be the opposite over adjacent. So the numerator from here and the numerator from here. Boom, 7 over 24. So go ahead and get that in your notes. All right, whoops, why does it keep doing that? So when we get to this one right here, we're now looking at angle B. So first we want to find the hypotenuse. So the hypotenuse for this one is right here, because it's the one across opposite of the right angle. So that's the hypotenuse. Then we're going to find the opposite side. So the opposite side is this one right here, because it's shining its light right there. And then we're going to talk about the adjacent. So this one is the only one that's left, so this one has to be adjacent. So now when we do sine, we know that our sine is going to be the opposite over hypotenuse. Our cosine is going to be adjacent over hypotenuse, and our tangent is going to be adjacent over the opposite. So there's our sine of b. Notice that I'm using a capital letter B, so we have 24 over 25. We have cosine of b, so we have 7 over 25. And then we have tangent of b, 24 over 7. So make sure you get that in your notes. That was our last slide for yesterday's lesson. So yesterday was April 29th. If you have any questions, please come to class with those questions, or you can send me an email if you're not able to attend class. You should be able to complete 1 through 15 now in your homework. So thank you so much, and I will have another video for us later. Thank you.